Welcome back to Weems Motor Co. Let's see if we can get this chopper to fire up. Stick around. Alright, it's been 13 episodes and 6 months of you guys watching us go through this motorcycle that we have titled the Jury. This motorcycle is the brother to our motorcycle, the Judge. But with this particular motorcycle, we did not spend a dime. We didn't go out and buy gaskets or anything. We only used the stuff that we had scrounging around the shop. Today is the day, episode 14, where we start this motorcycle up and we take it for its first ride and who knows when. Now that engine on here, that is a 1960 Triumph Bonneville engine. We have a 1971 Triumph top end on there, Bonneville steel with 2 carburetors. Y'all saw that on the last episode where we got those mounted up. The frame is a 1954 Triumph, which is super cool. The last year for the rigid frame, they only released it on half of the motorcycles. Blah, blah, blah. You've been here. You've seen 13 episodes of it. All you want to know is, will it run? And we're about to find that out. So it's just not as easy as you think jumping on and starting up a motorcycle, especially one that we've used a lot of old used parts. Obviously we have to put fluids in this. We have to put gearbox oil in there. We have to put oil in the oil tank, and we have to put fuel in the gas tank. But before I add those fluids, we talked back when we were doing the top end of this motorcycle that once we got it all together that we were gonna pull a compression check because we were using old pistons. So that's the first thing we're gonna do. We're gonna go ahead and pull these spark plugs out of there, perform a compression check to see where our compression sits, and then we're gonna check for spark to make sure we got good spark, and we're gonna make sure that our kill switch obviously works too, because if the motorcycle starts, we wanna be able to shut it off. After we do those things, then we can get fluids in and we can get this thing to see if it will fire up. So let's pull those plugs. Let's pull that compression check. Let's see what the status is on this 1960 Triumph Bonneville. Alright, so a compression tester, this is how it works. You have a hose that screws into where that spark plug comes out. The other end of the hose hooks into a gauge, and this gauge is a pressure gauge. Lets us know how much pressure as that piston is coming up it creates. Now we'll kick through a few times, the gauge will go up and it'll stop at where its highest point of compression is. Then we can compare the both sides and see how well they are within tolerance. I mean, what our tolerance is on this motorcycle, who knows? We just want to make sure that we have compression, nothing sticking and, you know, causing no compression. So let's get the tube screwed in, get it hooked up, get this thing lowered down on the ground so I can get on top of it and kick it, and then pull a compression test. Let's do it. Folks, I would have to say I'm probably pretty impressed with that. I was figuring we'd be around the 80 range. Well, it's pumping up just above 100. Now, I reached out to my buddy AJ Richter. He is the Triumph machinist extraordinaire. If you're not checking him out on YouTube, make sure you go over and check out his YouTube channel. Right here is the link at the bottom. But double checked with him. I'm like, hey, this is what I'm working with. You know, I was figuring it would be around 90 or 80, and he says, you know, for a perfect rebuild, you'd be shooting around 150 PSI. So we are old and used, which is what we expected with the Jury, but I think anything north of 100, we are perfectly fine. So now we need to check for a spark, and we need to make sure that our kill switch is actually killing the spark. So let's check that out and then get some fluids in it and see if we can breathe life into the Jury. Let's get back to work. All right, so we have spark. Our kill switch is a little finicky, but I figured if all else fails, I could just pull the spark plug wires off if it won't shut off. So Now it's time to get the fluids in there. With the gearbox, we use 80-90 gear weight oil. We need to put, it says 380 cc's, which equals out to about 1.6 cups. So we'll go ahead and fill that gearbox up, and then we'll jump up to the oil tank. And there's not a specific measure, but basically you want to keep it up right about there, close to the filler neck. You don't want it so far when you go around curves, it'll want to dump out. So I think originally it was say at about a half a tank, but I like to go 3/4 a tank, gives a little bit more capacity in it. And then throw some gas in it and we can get this thing fired up. So let's get the fluids in. Alright folks, here we go. Garage door open, fueled up, oiled up, ready to go. And it's all up to you guys. How many kicks do you think it's gonna take to get the jury fired up? I'm not sure when it comes to Bonnevilles because they're dual carburetors and where the settings need to be on the initial setup like I was on the Judge, but I think I may have it pretty close. So only thing left to do is to prime the carburetors. While we're priming the carburetors, you guys jump down in the comments, let us know how many kicks it's gonna take to have the jury fire back up into life. Let's do it. Maybe the timing's out. Let's figure it out. All right, it's off the left. So I got to thinking, let me pull it off the left, run out and grab my roll starter that we use for our Bike the Dolly Mongrel. Get it up on there and just see if I don't have enough weight behind it, kick-starting it to see if it'll fire up. Didn't work. So I'm sitting there thinking through the process and I was like, well, before I pull this timing cover off and redo all of the timing, maybe I have the spark plug wires backwards. So flip the spark plugs around and guess what? She fired up on the roll start. So I have not officially kick-started it, and this is gonna be the first time I actually get on it and kick-start it. So now, we know that it wouldn't start before. It would have taken thousands of kicks and it still wouldn't have started. Now we know that it'll run. Let's see how many kicks it's gonna take to fire up the jury. You ready for this? Let's do it. And there you have it, folks. Fired up on the third kick. We have a few little things to tune out on the carburetor, but there's one thing left to do, and that's to take this thing for a ride. Let's make it happen. All right, here we go. Maiden voyage on the jury with my brand new Odin gloves, ready to take this thing for its first ride. Let's see how she goes. Oh, I tell you what, she rides, man. This is super awesome. Take a bunch of parts you have laying around, put it together, make a running, riding motorcycle. Super cool. Man, let's rip this thing.
she's shifting smooth, no weird noises, everything is sounding great. Stoked about the jury. Man, tell you what guys, all we gotta do is figure out those carbs, and maybe just a little bit of time and adjustment, and we can get this thing to fire up just like the judge. Is dragging just a little bit, but outside of that, man, we have a running, riding motorcycle with $0 into it. Super stoked to have you guys on this journey for the past 6 months, man. It's been a wild ride, and now here we go, man. Thank you for all of your support, for the patrons, for the comments, for the views. All of that helps to make cool projects like this happen at Weems Motor Co. But with that, that's how we're gonna wrap up today's video, riding the jury around, doing some shakedown on it, having a great time. So thank you guys for hanging out. If you are new around here, jump down and hit that subscribe button. If you really like the video, hit that thumbs up, turn those notifications on, and let everyone know what's going on right here at Weems Motor Co. Peace.